Sorry to break it to you, gang. It doesn't matter if the new series of Doctor Who is good or bad. Either way, it's over. I'm going to show you how. I was around for the first death of Doctor Who in 1989, and boy was it overdue. There was a lot of reasons that caused the perfect storm of circumstances around the cancellation, but the primary issue, bad writing.
And here we go again.
Right you are, Doge. The longest running sci-fi TV show in television history is about to die again, and it could have been easily prevented. Let's lay out some framework that's led to this new season coming up. First, I think it's really interesting to note that showrunner Russell T Davies was very much aware of the systematic destruction that the mouse has had on the IPs under their care.
Star Wars, Marvel, Willow, Indiana Jones.
And we know this for a fact. Otherwise, he wouldn't have tried to hide Disney's involvement when the distribution deal was first announced. Articles like this one came out right before the specials first aired last year. From the Mary Sue. Some viewers, however, might be worried that this means Disney is sinking their claws into Doctor Who. It has been reported, after all, that the new distribution deal has allowed the BBC to increase the show's production budget significantly. But never fear, the BBC is retaining complete ownership over its flagship time-traveling series. Though the show will be partially produced by Bad Wolf Studios, per Gizmodo, BBC Studios is ultimately responsible for delivering the show. While Disney Plus is allowed to distribute the program, they are not involved in its production whatsoever.
You sit on a throne of lies.
After the specials aired, it became obvious even to the neighbor's dog shit in your yard that Disney had put their claws into it.
You disgust me. How can you live with yourself?
So, of course, Davies later came out and admitted that, yeah, they'd given him some notes that altered aspects of the show.
You stink like beef and cheese.
And one of those apparent notes was the mind-numbingly stupid nonsense of Davros no longer being wheelchair-bound as to prevent evil from being associated with disability.
Textbook Disney.
This was followed up with the additional nonsense that the Daleks would drop their catchphrase of "Exterminate!" and change it to "Educate."
Given the date on this article, I think we can ignore that one.
Right, I know, but the point is, the Davros thing is too stupid to be true, so why not this? We now live in such a twisted, bizarro world where this kind of shit is totally believable. That's the truly upsetting angle of all of this. I fully admit I started to fall for this one.
The Onion is finding it much harder to stand out these days.
And now, Davies has revealed the situation is even more dire than we thought.
I think Doctor Who would have to become a co-production. There's no way the BBC is going to fund that. You've also got to look in the long term at the end of the BBC, which is somehow, surely, undoubtedly on its way in some shape or form.
That was from the They Like to Watch podcast.
The BBC is going to die?
Here's what he's talking about, Doge. In Great Britain, everybody pays a TV tax.
Even if I don't own a TV.
Yep, it's where the BBC gets all of its funding, and that's why Classic Who tended to have its bad guys just wrapped up in tinfoil with little eye holes cut out. And the Conservative Party over there in Britain has a plan to eliminate that tax by 2027. That's why they were looking for someone to co-produce Doctor Who with. It's their biggest IP, and a co-production is commonly a baby step to purchasing the IP outright, which in 2022 I'm sure Disney was very keen to do, but things have changed thanks to Bob Iger.
So Davies agreed to Disney's notes just to keep the show alive?
Quite possibly, but at the cost of damaging the product. I'm sure you know what drum I'm going to bang next, and you're right, their systematic IP destruction does come into play, but here's the real meat of the problem. It comes from a fundamental non-understanding of how streaming works. All corporations everywhere have a tendency to like to copy what everyone else in their industry is doing because they think the other person knows something that they don't. Everyone jumped on the streaming bandwagon without thinking it through or doing their due diligence on the companies that had already been doing it. But the reality is, streaming services are like a drug addiction. You keep needing more and more product just to get the same high. Let me use Star Wars as an example. Imagine, for the sake of argument, that Disney Star Wars was actually awesome. Well, in that instance, all of the loyal fans who love Star Wars would be subscribed to Disney Plus. You're not getting any new ones. All of your potential audience is on board. So when you spend $200 million on a new season of a Star Wars show, what happens to it? You just drop that bundle of cash into a bottomless pit. Do you get a return on your investment? No, you're not getting any new subscribers. You're not making any profit. You're just keeping your existing customers happy. That's why experienced streaming services like Netflix are notorious for only greenlighting shows for 2 or 3 seasons, at most. They recognize that they might get some new subs for the show, but that profit potential levels off pretty quickly. It's only in rare circumstances, like with Stranger Things, that they will fully go all out on a show.
Not to mention it's a show they actually own.
Right, you are, Doge. Disney is only just now coming to realize this, so they're scrambling. The Mandalorian Season 4, canceled. They're changing that into a movie. The Moana TV series, same deal. That's going to be scrapped in favor of Moana 2 in theaters. They're converting all of these properties to the big screen in order to get a return on that money.
Netflix would have been a better option to distribute Doctor Who, but the results would have been the same.
As far as the longevity of the show was concerned, yeah, the results would have been absolutely the same. 2 or 3 years of life support, max, but Netflix would have been smart enough not to damage the IP at least. Disney has made a loss on its direct-to-consumer division in every quarter since 2020. This is from Forbes. The mouse was way high on the smell of its own charts when Disney Plus launched beyond their wildest expectations, forgetting to factor in that everyone was stuck at home during the pandemic at the time. And then they were like, hey, why is everything creamy and cold? Oh my God, we've been shitting the bed this whole time. They way overspent to create product, and the losses have been in the billions. And in an effort to regain some semblance of fiscal control, massive amounts of previously announced projects have been canceled. Dozens of Marvel TV shows and movies, Star Wars, you name it.
Even the Rey movie isn't on their slate anymore.
They bought the distribution rights to Doctor Who during their high, and now that they're in the danger zone, I don't see them renewing it, even if these new seasons end up being good. They're busy battening down the hatches and going to be prioritizing the content they own the rights to. This is a no-brainer on the cut list. And don't forget, they still have to shell out billions of dollars to Comcast to finish the Hulu deal this year. Video about that here. They're running out of cash fast, and even if their distribution deal for Doctor Who included a clause of right of first refusal to buy it outright, I don't think they're going to do it. Which begs the question, what happens to Doctor Who? Who is left to take it on when the BBC goes down? Most of the other streaming services are in the exact same boat. Paramount is allegedly on the brink of bankruptcy and are rumored to be selling off Star Trek to stay afloat. Amazon's a possibility, but they've got their own DEI issues, as evidenced by our gearing up to point and laugh at Season 2 of The Rings of Power. And even then, they'd be like Netflix and only support it for a couple of seasons. Perhaps it's time for the second death of Doctor Who. The first one ultimately did it good, and I'd rather see it take a rest than be forced to watch it be burned to the ground.
I think we're already there. The timeless child crap, come on.
You're not wrong, unfortunately, and instead of those wounds being healed by Russell T Davies, we're instead about to be inflicted with 2 seasons of Disney Who. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments, and stay fresh, cheese bags. Yeah.